playing in the sand, that kind of stuff. It was great.
Brilliant.
Hmm.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon. Don't forget, later on we've got Angela. I don't know what she's going to talk about, but it's going to be really interesting. So please join her around about 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock tonight. And in the meantime, I've got Warren. Warren, now, have you ever kind of got babysitters in,
Okay.
and for some reason you never trusted them?
Hmm. Uh, no, no. I would say I haven't had that issue at this point. Um, I'm trying to think through all the babysitters we've had, babysitters and au pairs and that kind of thing. No, my wife has selected them all, and I can't think of one that I didn't trust. We've been very, very
Right.
fortunate, very fortunate. Um,
Well,
yeah,
well, really, I want to concentrate on protecting your family
yes,
when other people are around. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
want to
I do.
focus on.
Yeah.
So bringing new people in. So when you when new people come into your household,
Hmm.
what are you like with your children? Are you protective over them? You don't know the person there is, or what do you do?
Yeah, I would say that I'm probably fairly protective of them, but at the same time, as long as I'm around, I will allow my kids to kind of experience things for themselves, to branch out and make mistakes. I think making mistakes is a really important part of growing up. And so I'll give you an example. So we have a family friend who sometimes it doesn't have kids and sometimes isn't able to manage his emotions around kids. And so my kids being, ADHD and anxiety and that kind of stuff, they can be a little much for people who aren't accustomed to being around kids. And so this individual tends to overreact when something's happening with kids. He goes a little above and beyond and oversteps boundaries sometimes. And it's a very close friend of mine, so I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I've had to have conversations with him on occasion saying, that's not really that's not an acceptable response to this issue. And so we were away camping with them a few months ago, and excuse me, he he yelled at one of our daughters, um, not because he dislikes that our daughter, but just because he doesn't know how to interact with kids. He's inexperienced with it, right? And so
Right.
Rachel and
Okay.
I both stepped in and had to explain to him, how his actions were wrong, how they could have resulted in really, you know, uncomfortable and
Mm.
bad situations and these sorts of things. So
Amen.
um, it's we've handled it in more of a conversational piece rather than getting upset, and that's very difficult to do sometimes because your automatic reaction as a parent is to become ultra protective, step in, helicopter parent, go in and solve the issue and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
extremely upset with everybody that's around and take your kid's side on everything. I think that does a disservice to our kids though, honestly. I think that kids have to take responsibility and culpability for their actions as well, because the world is not going to protect them once they're out from underneath your arms, right? Once they're teenagers and adults, they are responsible for their actions. And when they're young, if you take all that responsibility on, or you push all that responsibility onto other people, you create a situation where they feel as though they can't do any wrong.
Right.
And that I think creates entitled and problematic kids.
Right.
Now, there are going to be a lot of parents that do not like this opinion. This is a very, very like
Well, I'm getting people contacting me now.
I
They're,
know,
they're,
I know.
they're saying to me now. They're saying to me on my website.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve. Who is what's he talking about today? Is he off his trolley? Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
I get it. It's a
yeah,
really it's this is
yeah.
a very contentious issue. And there are a lot of people out there that believe that you should protect your kids at all costs from every possible wrong that is going to happen to them. And there are a lot of situations where you should protect your kids
Oh
entirely,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Completely.
definitely.
Physical, emotional abuse, that kind of stuff. Yeah, there is no place for it whatsoever. But we had an issue with one of our daughters and a friend at school, and uh, this friend was telling our daughter that she was mean and rude and this kind of stuff, and our daughter stood up for herself, and there was an issue between the two kids, and it was a very close friend of hers, and the mom of the other child stepped in and was like, our child is perfect, there is no way our child would ever say any of these things to your child. um you know I don't believe that our daughter ever said any of this, you're lying to and she said all this to my wife, and so
Yeah,
she helicoptered in and completely took over the situation and didn't allow for our kids to work it out, right? Didn't allow for them to come to any type of resolution. So we missed an opportunity there for our kids to develop conflict resolution skills, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because the mom got involved and didn't allow for this to take place naturally. I am of the mindset that, one, I recognize my kids are not perfect, right? And that's the first thing we all have to do, is recognize that our kids are not perfect. We can praise them and do the whole positive parenting style and really reinforce those areas where they're very good at it.
But we
But
we do we do protect them, and we do
yeah,
kind of mother cover up. We do kind of like kind of like hold them to us. But the trouble is, do you think about protecting? That's okay, but the protecting depends
yeah,
where they are. But the trouble is, we do a lot of protecting and not letting go for them to kind of like
yeah. So
expand. You know what I mean?
so think of it as two different things. There's protecting, and then there's insulating. If we insulate our child from everything and we don't allow them to have those experiences, right? That's how we create entitled children. And that's
Right,
a problem later on.
right,
So we have to protect them but not insulate them. And
right.
so when all this was happening, we were having a conversation with our daughter saying, let's go back and analyze how this situation took place. What happened to have this girl call you mean and rude? And when we got down to it, we looked at it and we're like, you were kind of being a bit of a pain. Like you threw a ball at the girl's face, you know. You restricted her from access to another friend. Like, these were things that kind of made it so this other girl could call you rude and mean. Do you understand how your actions resulted in this situation? Whereas if we were helicopter parents and we just came in and said, no, our daughter can't do anything wrong, she's perfect, it must be your kid, it completely removes the opportunity for them to learn from how they're interacting with other people. And so I
Yeah,
get why some of your audience may be like, Warren is crazy. Like, Warren should be standing up for his kids all the time. And I do stand up for my kids. I mean, I moved my kids away from a bad situation in order to protect them. But at the
yeah.
same time, just like I'm not perfect, my kids are not perfect. And
No,
they have to
we're
have
not.
the opportunity to learn.
None of us is perfect. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. Okay. Right. I think the trouble is, I think sometimes we can all protect our children, and but at the end of the day, we need to let go too sometimes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
On to the next subject. You will love this. You will love this subject now.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. Brian, he said to me, Steve, can you talk about mobile phones? Well, when I first met, Brian, um, Warren, we one of the discussions in one of the interviews was about mobile phones.
Yeah.
You know, and Brian is saying, what age should you give your son or your daughter a mobile phone? Right now, I know, right? You are strict about this, aren't you, Warren?
Yes and no.
Right,
Um, so my oldest daughter has a phone. She's
right,
11. Um, and the reason for that is because she took a babysitting course. And when
right,
she took the babysitting course, most, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in Canada, most houses do not have landlines anymore.
right.
So if she's babysitting or watching her sisters or anything like that, she has to have a method of communication. So that was a big caveat to it, was that this is for communicating when she doesn't have access to a landline, that sort of thing. um and so that was a part of the reason that she got it. I also believe that she was responsible enough at that point to have it. That has smacked me in the face many times.
Hang on for a second.
Because yeah.
Hang on. Jean said you gave gave your daughter a mobile phone at the age of 11.
Yeah.
That is irresponsible of you. You should have not give her no phone. Now, the trouble is, I will kind of like not stick up for Warren, but this is what I say. This is what I say to people. Yes, okay. Number one, yes, if you haven't got a landline, you need a mobile phone. See if anything happens, emergency. I won't give my daughter one of those phones where you can get on the internet with, but I will give her like a phone to ring just in case anything to get. And I won't give my daughter a mobile phone until she's around about 18. But that's me. That's me.
Hmm.
Every parent is different. Okay. Now, but she's saying to me, well, at the end of the day, every adult is responsible for their own children. Why give a why give a mobile phone to somebody who is 11, especially your own daughter? Do you think that is a irresponsible
it's
parent?
a it's a great question. It's a great question. And for some kids, yeah, it might be irresponsible to do that, to give them access to the internet freely and those sorts of things. But there are things you can do to restrict that. You can use time management apps in order to restrict access to the phone at certain times, while still giving it the ability to make phone calls, right?
Yeah.
As an example, our daughter is away with her grandparents, over 1,500 kilometers away right now. And we would like to be able to speak with her when we want. And so
Yeah.
with her phone, we can do that.
Yeah.
Her grandparents do not have a landline. We do not have a landline. So this gives us a way to be able to communicate with her. It's also, it can be a cultural thing. I don't know how it is in the UK, but in Canada, pretty much every kid has a phone. And when your child doesn't have a phone, they stand out, and that can be a bit of an issue. But our decision to get this was based on responsibility of her being a babysitter for both our kids and other kids. And so if we decided that she was responsible enough to take care of another life, I think we've decided that she's
Mm,
responsible enough to take care of a phone.
mm, mm.
So while I appreciate Jean's comment, I believe that we made a judgment call with regards to our daughter's ability to be responsible, and thus, made a decision for our responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, because Brian said the same thing too.
Yeah.
Same thing. So it's Brian, Jean, and
I mean,
okay.
I didn't get a cell phone until I was 17, and I paid for it myself.
Yeah.
But it's a different world now from how
Yeah.
it
Oh yeah.
was 20
Well,
plus years ago.
we did have no internet, did
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, it
We
was
did
pretty
no.
limited at that time.
Yeah, we did have the internet and nothing like that, didn't we? Or
Hmm.
we could come, you know. Then we had the mobile phone. Then the texts came in. Then it was picture messages. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
and that was it, so we were limited.
Yeah,
What I want to do is do a poll, everybody. I want to. Do
that's a
you
great
agree?
idea.
Do you agree with Warren? Do you think that by giving his daughter kind of like a phone and everything, it's a sensible? Is it sensible, or do you believe that it's not sensible? What do you think? And I want to listen. I want to get your replies back, and please let me know, and we can do a poll about this.
Oh, it's
To
going to
do,
be a very divisive issue, Steve. This,
yeah,
this one,
yeah,
like of
yeah.
all the topics you've chosen, technology and kids. Oh man, this one stirs up a hornet's nest.
Yeah, well, it's stirring something up at the moment. I think I've got somebody doing something in. We got a studio apartment, and I work from home. And they're saying to me, "Can you slow down a bit on your topic?" And I'm saying, "Well, no, not really," because they're kind of like mailing in and everything, letting me know. Um, but also, Brenda wants to say, "Hi, Steve. Love this. I love Warren every week. I love seeing him. Can you tell me it's just every week? At the moment, yeah, when Warren gets fed up and everything's like that. Um, but it's but it's really good, really good. Would it be possible if we can bring up about schools having phones in schools? Oh
Mhm.
no. Yes, okay. Yeah, we could do that right now if you want. Um, we talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah,
About taking your mobile phone to school and everything.
yeah.
And you know, and the trouble is they're always on their phones and not learning. You know, I think it's the one. I think it's the adult's responsibility. Also, I think it's the child's responsibility to kind of like say, right, this is learning time now, not your
Yeah.
phone. You know, um, and the trouble is, I think schools should kind of like when they have lessons, they all should put their phones in a bag,
Yeah.
put them in a drawer, put them away,
Yeah.
and and give them back. Do you think about that?
Yes and no. And I know that I give you that answer a lot and it's a massive cop out, but I'll give you my reasoning behind it. At a certain age, yes. So with my daughter's age, that phone does not come out of her bag while she's at school. Even at lunchtime and all that kind of stuff, it stays in her bag and it doesn't come out until the end of the day bell rings, right? And she knows that. Because if it does, the teachers confiscate it. And so I'm in full support of that. When your kid gets older, okay, the challenge with restricting access to a phone is that the phone becomes and has become such an integral part of the way that we communicate, the way that we do research, the way that we work, that restricting their ability to utilize it as a tool disadvantages them in the future, right?
Mm.
The vast majority of jobs now, particularly office jobs, require you to be communicating very quickly, to have access to essentially limitless resources on your phone, that sort of thing. And so I am of the mindset that giving children access to technology early gives them a leg up on the rest of society in their ability to use those tools later on in life.
Right.
That if we completely isolate them from technology, like restrict having massive restrictions on screen time, these sorts of things, you're not necessarily embracing the tools and skill sets that they could have for
Yeah,
later
but
in life.
the trouble is though, that's fine.
Yeah,
But how about the times when they're in class
yeah.
and they're supposed to be learning?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I mean there's restrictions you can put on it. Like as a parent, I'm able to restrict the hours that my daughter is able to access certain applications on her phone,
right?
right? So she can have access to Wikipedia or resources while not having access to chat functionality and video messaging and those sorts of things. So you can do this. It just takes
Hmm.
you as a parent understanding the intricacies of that piece of technology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So
But
Yeah.
I just think, while they're kind of like learning, when they're in a learning situation, somebody said to me the other day, they said, Steve, I think they should have their mobile phones in the classroom because they might want to use it for like maths, doing maths with, like a
Yep.
calculator,
Yep.
or other things as well. And I said, yeah, but the truth is, it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, and I got into a big argument
Yeah.
with them. You know what I mean?
No,
Um,
and both I think both opinions are right. There is a level of education from a rote memorization and a understanding of fundamentals of each individual topic that has to take place, right? You have to understand how math works from a fundamentals perspective. But the idea of being able to do complex mathematics doesn't really make sense anymore because we have this, it's called a cognitive prosthetic. Okay, so technology today is similar in a way that it's a prosthetic, a prosthesis for our brain. It allows us to do things that we were never able to do before in rapid succession, right? And so using those tools to be able to free up space in our brain to do other tasks gives us the ability to go way beyond where we were ever able to go before, right? We can do incredibly complex calculations very, very quickly by using those tools. Do you have to understand how the fundamentals of that piece of technology work? Yes. That way you can continue to advance. Otherwise, we're stuck within pre-scripted coding. So I agree with both sides. Using the tools, very important to free up your brain to do other things. Having an understanding of how the tools work, having an understanding of how different fundamental topics work, also very important.
brilliant, really good. Just looking at something here. 30, 32 in favor of Warren
So
so far.
32, 32, like so 50-50.
No, it's 30. You're winning by two so
Winning
far.
by so pretty much 50-50. Like as close
All right,
to
all right.
half and half as you could get. We'll
Yeah,
call that
well, no, it's not. You're winning by two.
two on what percentage? Like on how many in total?
Hang on for a second. Around about 116.
Yeah, okay, we'll call that rounding area. Two is that's the
I'm just kind of like looking at it. Um, but the trouble is, though, what you got to realize is, I, I, I told it's so difficult, about this subject. It gets talked
oh
about
yeah.
all the time about mobiles being in school, and but also what I do want to talk about to finish on is um, I want to kind of concentrate on, is religion. This is the last
Oh, you're
subject.
hitting all the controversial topics today, aren't you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see you looking at your wife there thinking, oh my God. Do you think religious education should be taught in school?
Oh man. Um
If I
you're looking to
started
get
you
me
off there,
killed. Okay. Yes, I believe it should be an option.
right,
No, I do not believe that it should be forced.
right.
I myself am not religious. Having completed ministry and discipleship in a Baptist church, all that kind of thing, with that being a potential direction for me, I am non-religious now.
Why
um,
did you give it up? Why did you give it up for? You'd have to, all that theology training.
I didn't. Oh man, this is how do I answer this in the politically correct
Well,
way?
listen,
I
listen,
didn't
listen.
believe that it fit properly with my life. I didn't believe that the concept of mass religion fit with how I wanted to live my life. I felt
Right.
that it was restrictive, that the teachings were not necessarily contemporary. I believed that there was more to the world than a single monotheistic being deciding who we are and what we do, and that there was a lot of conflict and hypocrisy in all religions, not just in anyone, but in all religions. The idea that there is this gift of free will, but that there is also smiting of massive populations. That to me is inherently in conflict.
You're not answering it. You're not answering the question. What I'm asking. I'm not that stupid. Look, listen to me. You know, what I'm asking you is this: to go into ministry, you must have a
Yeah.
calling. All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
All right. You must have a calling, and to go to ministry. Then what you do then, you kind of like, if God calls you to ministry,
Mhm.
and go to college and learn what you got to learn and everything,
Yeah.
that's fine. So then you were a Christian then, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you called yourself a Christian, you know, and you were committed to go to church. But something along that line
Mhm.
must have said, "Hang on for a second, I lost my faith." You know, um, this is not right for me, probably. And you just gave it up. But for some people, they give it up because something gets in the way. Now, was that someone came along? You met your wife while you were doing it, or was it
No, my
a
wife's a
relate?
Catholic.
Okay, but but was it, but was it something that kind of like directed you somewhere else?
I would say that there was a particular book that led me to a crisis of faith, if you want to call it that.
Right,
It's a book called Ishmael, and it reframes the idea of monotheism or polytheism um, in the format of that we're all just animals living on this planet trying to get along, and
right.
it promotes the concept of animism. And so if you were to ask me what I believed in, I would probably say that I am spiritual and an animist rather than religious.
Right. Right. Okay. Right. Let me get off that subject because
That's a tough one, Steve. I appreciate the question. I really do. I think it's a very good question. It's a very difficult one to answer.
well, yeah, yeah. Well, it's because what it is, I do believe I do have my belief.
Hmm.
I do believe in God, right? I don't hide
Yep.
the fact away from that. And I don't go around preaching it or whatever. But what I do say is this: that when I was training to be a youth pastor,
Yep.
and when I went to college, and when I came back, there was somebody like a relationship was in the way. So I gave that up to be with
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
And sometimes temptations, when we're going through the ministry, get in
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to point out. So,
Yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is, let's get back to the topic. You know, do you agree that that religious education should be kind of be? I reckon it should be on the critic. I reckon it should be there. I reckon
I
they
think an
should teach it.
understanding of all religions should be available in school. I think that
Yeah. Oh yeah.
if you
Yeah.
choose to educate yourself about one, you should choose to educate yourself about all of them. Right? You should understand how all monotheistic religions work because they play such an important role in society and culture and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
but I also think that you should be given the choice as to whether you wish to be educated on that topic. That if you are a true and profound atheist, that you should have the ability to say, look, atheism is my religion, and I choose to believe in that. Under the Religious Freedoms Act in Canada, atheism is recognized as a religion. And so we protect people's right to be atheist. And that to me is very important, that we protect all religions, and lack of religions from a government standpoint. And so in Canada, you are not forced to learn about religion should you choose not to. I think it's an important topic to understand, but I don't think that anybody that we shouldn't be indoctrinating children to believe any particular one set of ways.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to argue about it. I'm not going to get into that. I could be in there all night with you.
It's a big one. That's a big topic.
There's a bit of discussion, and it'll go on and go on and go on. It's everybody else, believes in all sorts of things, and it's up to. At the end of the day, no one can kind of say to you, you must do that, must do that. We all got a self-will, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Don't forget, this poll will kind of stay open, and don't forget, I will put, we'll kind of like announce the final, kind of like, what happened. Will Warren win? Well, we don't know, and let's get your questions in for next week. Anyway, thank you, Warren.
Looking forward to it. See you in 5 days.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Steve.
Bye.